Hello and welcome to Handmade Oxford Online, taking place on interact.handmadeinbritain.co.uk, running from Wednesday the 15th to Saturday the 19th of September 2021. Handmade Oxford Online is a lovely mix of exhibitor-led live sessions, live auctions, demonstration videos, and the chance to buy direct from our exhibitors from their shop page. My name is Alice, and I'm a part of the Handmade in Britain team. And today we're joined by the wonderful Anna Simoes, Jewellery, who's going to be talking through her collection, but also about her collection is inspired by her heritage. So it gives me great pleasure to share with you and to introduce Anna. Hello, Anna. Hello, nice to see you.
Hi, Alice. Nice to see you.
Oh, that's wonderful. How are you today? Good?
I'm very good, thank you.
Wonderful.
It's a bit rainy in Plymouth, but
Uh,
it's still good.
oh gosh, it's a little cloudy in London, but hopefully it will get a little bit brighter. Well, thank you so much, for joining us this afternoon, as it's going to be wonderful to run through your collection. And talking about your collection, if people aren't familiar with the work that you do, how would you best describe your practice for them?
Okay, so I would say I'm a fine jeweler. I work mainly with precious metals. Actually, I work with precious metals and gemstones. I think it has quite strong aesthetics. Like Alice was saying, my jewelry is inspired by my heritage. I'm from Portugal. I've been in the UK for about 11 years now. So I moved to do a degree in jewelry, but I also trained as a goldsmith in Portugal previous to my degree. Yeah, so I've always been in contact with jewelry really because my grandfather was a goldsmith, but he passed away while I was quite young, and then my first contact with any university degree was architecture. So I did go to university to study architecture for about 3 years, but then I decided actually it wasn't really where my passion lied on. So then I dropped out and started training as a goldsmith. Yeah. So here I am, about 15, 16 years later.
Goodness me! Now you've just said that architecture has played a part, and I'm fascinated to kind of delve in because already it feels like I can see some of those hints creeping into your work, but I'm not going to get there just yet. But how lovely to hear that actually, jewelry, is a part of your heritage, and I'd really love to learn more in terms of how that's actually driving you now, because I believe it plays quite an important part in the work, but certainly then from your inspiration, for your collections. It'd be lovely to learn a little bit more about that.
Yes. So I actually have a small presentation to share with you. Um, just to kind of give you a little bit of background of what I'm going to talk about. Um, so actually, let me go back to the beginning. Sorry. Yeah. I, so my jewelry is very, very much inspired by Portuguese architecture, mainly by the tiles. So the tiles you'll see all over Portugal, they adorn the houses and they come in many different colors and in many different repetitive patterns. And that's kind of like how I tend to approach my work, really. I'm very much inspired by these. I love repetition. I normally work with one element and then I play around with the drawings and kind of repeat the same pattern to see how they will look like, really. So yeah, as you can see on the left side of the screen, there's a picture of a house in Portugal, and you can see the different tiles. And then on the right, there's a picture of some of my drawings. So that's kind of like my signature style that you can find, where you can literally see in most of the jewelry, most of my jewelry, really. So again, there's some of my drawings, and again, a different pattern from another house. Blue is quite big color. There's lots of blue, but there's also reds and greens, and I think that in a way informs my choice of materials and colors a little bit. But we can talk about that further down the line. Yeah, so I think in a way my jewelry is very ornamental, very much like the tiles in Portugal, but obviously uh, in architecture, you'll see these tiles everywhere, from the very ground floor to the very top of the house. And obviously, my jewelry tends to be a little bit more modern in a way. Okay.
It's really lovely because you kind of touched upon architecture before. What we're looking at these beautiful kind of real life photos, and then to the side, we're actually, I believe, they're your drawings, and it's lovely to see. They're quite exact, which is then which is you can see from your original pictures, and then put into to your work. Is it very important to have things, quite exact, and kind of a continuation and a repetition? Is that important?
Yes, I think again, it's these the patterns we find in tiles and even like iron work that you would find in balconies and everything. They're very precise. I think they are done by craftsmen in their own fields, and I think that that is really important to me. There is also a sense of handmade that is important to me. So actually, whilst I draw them quite precisely, then the finishing I use, it kind of feels that it's kind of a little bit more rough. So yeah, but precision is definitely really important to me, and that's why I tend to use CAD quite a lot. I think it's quite immediate as well. I think it saves me a lot of time with model making as well. I actually have a little video next. You can see this is a ring that I just it's a commission ring actually that I put together in CAD, and I think it gives me that precision. I know exactly how things are going to fit. It gives me an idea of how things are going to look like and about the size and the weight, which is really important as well, because I love that my pieces are very light. I can't deal with like heavy jewelry, especially on my ears. So it is important to me that they do look a bit heavy, but they're really, really light. And with CAD, I can actually calculate things really easily. So yeah.
So here we're looking at a commission piece, and one of the lovely things that I hear, talking with makers, is their relationship, with their customer, with the use of, in effect, a technology. How easy, or how can it kind of drive the design process? Does it actually become quite an intimate process with the customer with the use of technology?
Yes, so I think with CAD, I can put some actually quite many different options for the customer together. I obviously can render these as well, so the customer will get like a closer feel to how the piece will look like in the end. Also, because then I can 3D print things, obviously in a kind of resin. It gives the customer the opportunity of trying different things, and then they can make a more informed decision. So it means that they have to meet me more often. And as you understand, like when we're talking about commissions, they tend to be a little bit more pricey. So the customer then feels completely reassured about their purchase, and they know that they're having exactly what they dreamt of. Yeah. So
So obviously, kind of, customers kind of come to you, and of course, a lot of people can see your collection with us. So they obviously come because they're inspired and want to, have a piece that you do. So, how does, certainly your heritage and design influence again your choice of color and material?
Okay, so actually, like I said, there's lots of blues. The tiles are very lots and lots of blues. There's lots of yellows as well. Everything is quite ornamental, so I tend to stick to those colors. I really like cameos as well, and you can see on the image on the right that there's some kind of figures on the tiles as well. So cameos are quite a good way of kind of trying to mimic that. That kind of figure. So I do tend to, I think in the beginning I thought everything was kind of natural, but obviously then when you look back, I grew up around these things, and everything stays in your memory. So it's really funny that I have this kind of attraction. Uh, and I kind of look at the same stones. I like to work with rubies and sapphires and emeralds. And when I look around me, when I go back to Portugal, I see it's like, oh, everything is green or everything is blue. So I think that relationship is kind of there. Yeah, and obviously it's beautiful to work with gold. Gold is such a beautiful material to work with, but then the richness of the yellow combined with the precious stones, I think, yeah, I think it just makes those colors really stand out. I found this image is quite funny. As you can see, there's the yellow and the blue, and again, it's there. I didn't really think there was anything to do with it, but then obviously it's there. It's in my head all the time.
It's amazing sometimes how we can be a sponge and kind of absorb it when we don't know, and it kind of comes out in our design process. I think what I'm really enjoying about looking, at your photos and then looking at your work is when we're looking at those colors, sometimes they can be on quite a hard surface, because I'm presuming these are going to be ceramic tiles. So
Mhm.
this is a complete, it's a completely different process to achieve that. And then with yours, I'm seeing kind of, the lightness of color, the lightness of movement. It's like you're bringing it, far more alive, and it's something we can take with us. When you're designing, you said there about, it being kind of, a lightweight. Are you always thinking about how someone's going to wear it, or do you kind of secretly think, how would you wear it, and you kind of design that way when you're looking at the piece of jewelry?
Yeah, I think there's a big part to me. I always say I'm my own worst customer because I'm actually quite fussy with jewelry. So I think all the fixings and all the fastenings and anything like that, if they don't work for me, I think they're not going to work for anyone else. So I think I tend to design a little bit like that, and obviously keep that in mind that jewelry, I hope people wear this like all day long if they're buying a pair of earrings, and it's not going to be fussy at the end of the day. I want them to enjoy wearing my jewelry. So I lightness is one of the main things, and like the way things, fast as well. I think that's really important to me. Yeah.
So we're seeing that you've got use of stones, certainly here, within the earrings that we've got on screen. Now, kind of going back to kind of thinking about a ceramic tile, sometimes that has a lovely, it has a glaze, so it reflects the light. Is that kind of what you're achieving here, and how important is the use of stones, with the gold, with the silver?
Yeah, I think, stones, I actually look a lot for stones that are one of a kind. I think that's something that's quite important to me as well, because, like I said, I work a lot with repetition. I tend to work with the same components and then kind of like assemble them differently. But I think by looking at working with stones that are unique, then you can create pieces that will be unique as well. So yes, there's definitely, I think the element of color is super important. The element of light is super important as well, but it's also the uniqueness they bring to the work. I think they add that extra layer to the work.
I think they really, add something. Sometimes they can be the starting point, and sometimes they can be the final point, where it's just that final piece, final touch, to something that you have been working on. Do we have can we move on? Is there a next slide that we can have a look at? Because
Yeah, so the next slide is about gold. Okay, so I'm from the north of Portugal, and gold the use of gold is also really important to me because in Portugal, gold has a lot of symbolism. So again, it's something that it's passed on from generation to a generation. These ladies are ladies from my part of the country. It's kind of folklore, but all of these necklaces represent something different and they were given by other members of the family. And in a way, that's what I hope for my jewelry as well. I hope that my jewelry will be passed on from generation to generation. So that's something that's really important to me as well.
So what kind of thing? These are beautiful. The way that it's just kind of draped, it almost looks like one piece, but of course it's not. It's kind of it is kind of carrying around history, with these different layers. So when we're looking at this and we're looking at your piece, next to it on screen, what really is the relationship between your heritage and your making process? Is this something that you think about, or again it just kind of transpires that you go off and you make, and because you've absorbed them, they're coming out in your process?
I think it's a bit like that, really. I absorb them for so many years and then they come out in my process. It's not something, I think it's literally in me. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm going to design this and it's going to be exactly like that. No, I think it's just, yeah, it's part of me. Yeah, it's hard to control. I'll put it like that.
So we can see here that we're looking at not only jewelry, but we're looking at beautiful fabrics and beautiful colors, and of course we've touched upon the buildings. Do you think that everything really, everything kind of is a melting point of all this kind of heritage that we see from Portugal, that you've kindly shown us? Do you think it's all a melting pot, that everything is there for you to choose from?
Yeah, I do think that. I think I don't tend to look at jewelry, and obviously because it's hard already. When I'm designing my components, I don't tend to look at jewelry, but I do look at fabrics as well. In my hometown, we have quite a traditional type of embroidery, so I do bring that. Again, the shapes and the kind of swirls, and they're a little bit organic, but at the same time, again, geometric. So I do bring a little bit of those things into my work, definitely.
See, again, it's kind of hearing that word geometric, and again, going back to your original photos and then looking at your drawings and then kind of, matching that up with the architectural background. It really kind of all comes together. But I think, looking at this and looking at where your jewelry, has the ideas have come from. I mean, what would you say makes your pieces, distinguishable?
I do think, I think there's definitely an aesthetics there. I think, well, some people ask me, or they make comments such as, your jewelry looks very Middle Eastern. But yes, we do in Portugal have, we were left with a lot of, heirlooms in a way that were left to us by the Moorish. So I do think that there's kind of that aesthetics going on. And sometimes people think, obviously, that I'm not, I'm Middle Eastern in a way, but it's because we have this Moorish heritage. And I think it kind of shows in many ways, I guess. I'm showing you this picture that it's from ladies' folklore related to the north of Portugal, but you can find this in Tunisia and you can find this in Turkey. And I think it's very interesting in a way that, like, how, our heritage can go back to, 1,000 years ago, and we can trace it in that way. I think, obviously, because I work this way, or I chose to work this way, I think in the UK at the moment, my work is a little bit different. So I do think, yeah, there's definitely a strong aesthetics that it's kind of recognizable, and you can really associate the work with me.
Kind of looking at your pieces here, certainly over kind of the last year, when you've kind of set up, do you find that, so in your working, kind of, professional working, do you share a studio, or have you shared a studio, And has, the relationship with other designers, be it jewelers or other designers and other materials, kind of influenced or given you challenges, or just kind of learned something, or really kind of had something to push your creative practice forward?
So I actually work from home. I don't share a studio, but I teach at Plymouth College of Art, and we have. So I'm the workshop coordinator. So it means that I'm in charge of the jewelry workshop, and the college has a really amazing workshop. And I think working with other students actually pushed me to develop my practice a little bit more, getting inspired by it's quite funny actually. I got inspired by other students trying to, do do this on their own. And I think that being such a creative environment really helped me to push the boundaries and try to, just kind of work more, I guess, work more. Because, yeah, I was in London and then I moved to Plymouth and I was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Uh, and then, yeah, I found myself in teaching in a way, which is really funny.
I remember when I was at university, we were in a large room with other creatives, and they said, "Oh, you'll never get this again. You go off into the world and you try and get creative, studios or share or work from home." But it's lovely to hear how your process has gone, that you're making, and then kind of full circle to then be supportive. Do you think sharing ideas and being influenced by others, will continue to be a part of your work?
Yeah, definitely. I think, gladly these days we have social media. So it's really easy to be in contact with other makers and share experiences. Yeah, definitely. I have to say, I do prefer working by myself. I shared studios in the past, and I think I yeah, I do like the loneliness of a jeweler. That's kind of a funny thing, but at the same time, I do feel the need of meeting other creatives all the time and having, again, because I teach at the college and I have access to other people constantly as well. So maybe having that balance where you have, access to other creatives and then maybe working by yourself at some point. I think I kind of need that. I wouldn't like to just work by myself constantly and feel lonely all the time. And I guess the only reason why I like to do it so much at the moment is because I have contacts with other creatives at the college. Yeah.
It's lovely. Now, we saw a picture earlier of your cameo earrings, and I'm spy. Are you wearing them
Yeah,
right
I
now?
am. I am wearing them. I don't think you can. It's just really hard, isn't it? Yeah, I am wearing it. They're really, really light. These cameos, again, they have a little bit of a story. One of my students, mature students, his mum was actually a jeweler, and unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago, I would say. And I met her once, and she was in her 80s. And these were actually some of the cameos she left behind. So they actually have quite a bit of a history behind them. So yeah, I love that, and I obviously got about 4 cameos from her when she passed away, and yeah, it's lovely. She had been a jeweler forever. It's amazing.
It's wonderful because for me, kind of cameos go back to kind of like the 18th century. I'm sure even further. So it's lovely to kind of see them, brought and reinvented in such a unique way. So, looking at some of your pieces that you've got with us, on the shop, we go from beautiful, silver to gold, to beautiful necklaces with blues, and then some other stones there. Do you have a favorite piece that you've got on the shop, with us at the moment?
I do have. Let me just think what I have. I do. You have the earrings with the sapphires. I really like those ones. The ones I showed on the presentation. I really like those earrings. But I have I love earrings generally, but I have the ring, I think that you posted on Instagram as well, which is this one here. I love these rings. I don't know if you can see it very well, but I just, yeah, I think they feel so nice when you're wearing them. They're definitely some of my favorite pieces as well. And again, the stone, the diamond in the middle, it's going to be one of a kind as well, and I really like that. So no diamond will be the same. They're all special.
It's lovely the way that piece actually sits on your finger, because it can. What's lovely about these sessions is we actually get to see them, being worn. Because in our photos, it's lovely and clear, but it's lovely to see that actually, even though it is slightly, kind of,
Yeah,
wide, it's not actually when you get it on on the finger as well. Do you often think about, that we spoke about earlier about kind of, designing? Do you design for yourself? But once you come down to design, do you actually start to think about how it would be worn, rather it be, on the finger, around the neck, or, in the ears?
yeah, definitely. I think with with rings is also something that's really important is, you use your hands all the time. You don't really want anything that's going to interfere with that movement, especially if you wear it every day. Again, lightness for me, it's really important. And I have quite small fingers actually. They're not very long. So, if it's anything that goes around the knuckle, then it just becomes uncomfortable. So yes, there's lots of trial and error, and again, that's why I like it so much. That with CAD, you can 3D print things, you can try them on, and literally just don't pursue anything that I don't think it's going to be comfortable. Yeah.
I think that's great, because it's really lovely to hear how technology is playing, such a big part, within your process. And it's lovely that you've got such a wealth of influence, to start you off with the collection. And talking about collections, what's next? Are you working on something behind the scenes, or, have you got something in mind that you'd like to go away and now try?
Yes, so I am actually gonna upload by the end of the month a few new pieces. So they're kind of like every day, and there's some rings that are like really good for engagement rings. They're obviously thinner than these ones. These are more statement rings. They're a bit thinner, and you can stack them with other rings, so it's perfect for engagement and wedding. I'm releasing a few new earrings as well, but I'm already working on another collection on the background. So that one, I think maybe halfway through next year, hopefully I'll be showing them live in Oxford.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's really something that the team and I are really kind of looking forward to. Is being back in person. But we really enjoy doing these live events, because it feels like we get to have a sneaky peek, and I'm sure it does, for all of our attendees who are joining us. We get to have a sneak peek into the studio, or into kind of, pieces that you're showing. But also, the most important thing is to learn more about you, because it's amazing. Now we've kind of seen some of those imagery, we can now start to connect it, I think, with you. And so your work for us will become far more recognizable, which is really important, and something that, we want to see more of. But coming to that, Anna, we're coming to the end of our session. It's been really wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful, like I said, to run through, all of your pieces, how you design, how your heritage really kind of sets a tone from your work, but also what's going to be happening next. I think that's really exciting. So Anna, thank you so much for your time this
Thank you.
afternoon. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, that's been great. Thank you. So thank you, Anna. So